Your grandfather, Medres. Could you say a little bit more about the books that he wrote?
He wrote his first book is called Montreal of Yesterday, Montreal von Nachten, and it was published in 1947. He wrote it during the Depression. He wrote this series of articles about the lives of the early immigrants before 1914, which he was one of them. In a way, it was looking back on happier times, and he says this in his introduction. Before the world knew what a world war was, before they knew what a concentration camp was, what a gas chamber was. So, and it was a time of hope. There were all these ideologies that people believed in, and they really thought that the world would become a better place. There was a lot of hope in the future. And so he started writing this during the Depression. And he really was one of the earliest it was one of the, maybe the earliest social histories of Jews in North America. The chapter headings are amazingly similar to Irving Howe's World of Our Fathers. He talks about the Jewish neighborhood. He talks about what kind of work people had. He talks about courtship and marriage. He has a chapter on movies, what movies people saw, the Yiddish theater, the vaudeville theater, the phenomenon of borders, how people either lived as boarders, came as single people, lived as boarders, or took in boarders, and the fact that a lot of books and the plays in the Yiddish theater were all based on this theme of borders. And there, it's a wonderful book. In that my grandfather also had a great sense of humor. It's very understated, very subtle, but he poked fun at everybody, but not in a sarcastic way. In that chapter on borders, he said that a wife falling in love with a boarder, or husband falling in love with a boarder, was very common in the Yiddish theater, but it also happened occasionally in real life. And in that situation, people would read very carefully the forewords, even here in Canada, because they had the Galerie von verschwundene Männer, the gallery of missing husbands. And they published their pictures in the newspaper of these men who had run away from their families. And if they were discovered, they'd be arrested and sent back. So, because he does talk about instances of that in Montreal, you would report it to the Baron de Hirsch Society, which was like their Jewish Family and Child Service, and there was somebody in charge, he gives his name, who's especially in charge of this, and he would alert the police and they'd arrest this errant husband and send him back. So he has these wonderful little details about life, what a wedding was like, what they would serve, ginger ale and peanuts and things like that. It's a wonderful book, clothing, the hats. And then there are some serious chapters. It's a fascinating book. And so it was published in 1947, after the war.